We have a number of esteemed speakers here today to celebrate the achievement and the success of our late mayor. And without further ado, I will start with the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. So without further ado, Sadiq, please welcome.
Well, our brothers, sisters, friends, respected guests, family members, welcome everyone to City Hall for this commemoration for a special man, the late Abdurrahman Umar Osman. Like so many Londoners and people from around the world, I was deeply saddened when I heard about Mayor Osman's death. It's an honour to be able to join all of you today to pay tribute to him and for us to remember his life. I'm particularly pleased that we're joined by many members of the Mayor's family, including his children, and I know that Muhammad Umar, his son, will be speaking later on. All I can say to both of you, it's when your father passes, it's very difficult. One thing that you will know that will benefit him in the hereafter is your prayers and your good deeds, and I'm sure, inshallah, your life will be filled of many prayers and good deeds that will benefit him in the hereafter as well. Abdurrahman Osman had lived in our city, London, and it's clear that he was an inspiration and a role model to so many who knew him, not just because of his incredible story, but because of his values and his unwavering determination to help others. When Abdurrahman, what he achieved during his time in London was nothing short of remarkable. For those that don't know, he arrived in 1991 as a refugee during the civil war in Somalia. He completed a master's degree from Westminster University. He became a British national, and then he contributed hugely to our city, London, by becoming a local councillor and a pillar of his community, a true Londoner. But then, a decade ago, he courageously left all this behind to return to Somalia. Despite the huge risks this involved, his friends and family have said he was determined to return. He felt that it was his duty to do everything that he could and to use the skills and knowledge he'd developed in London to help the most vulnerable in Somalia and help his country on its path back to peace and stability. Like he did here in London, it's clear that Abdurrahman Osman made a powerful mark as a public servant in Somalia, positively touching the lives of so many. Since his untimely death, there have been so many moving tributes from around the world, including here in London. And in reading these testimonies, the thing that's resonated for me was his bravery, his determination, and his optimism for a better future. He was a talented politician who had his sights set on building a diverse, safe, and tolerant city as the mayor. Sadly, he'll never be able to see his vision come to fruition, but he leaves an incredible legacy. And we could all learn from his life, from his selfless dedication to helping others, and from that ceaseless sense of optimism that he possessed. That belief that if we come together, we can make things better, despite what could often seem as impossible hurdles ahead. Before I finish, I must also say something about the poisonous ideology behind the murder of Mayor Osman. This is the same ideology that has inspired terrorist attacks here in London, and it's a threat that we still face today. Friends, respected elders, brothers and sisters, we must never let those who seek to divide us succeed. And we can do this by continuing Mayor Abdurrahman Osman's work, taking on the violent extremists and championing the very things that they seek to destroy: democracy, freedom, and equality. And so today we come together in solidarity with the people of Somalia, the people of Mogadishu and Mayor Osman's family and friends, to reject all forms of violent extremism, to commit to continuing to stand up to hatred and intolerance, and to promote peace and unity, as Abdurrahman Osman so bravely did. I'm proud that Engineer Yariisow, as many called him, was a Londoner and a proud Londoner. And on behalf of all Londoners, I know I can say today without hesitation that we're all so proud of what he was able to achieve in his lifetime and the lasting legacy he leaves us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor, for those and remarks and those moving words, and we really appreciate your presence and also your partaking on the contribution that we are making here for our late Mayor and Engineer Yariisow. So thank you very much again, and thank you to you all again. So now we will have a speaker who will be speaking in Somali, and I have a transcript for you, for those of you who doesn't speak Somali. So please forgive us for this particular speaker who will be speaking in the Somali language. And this speaker is an editor at Universal TV and a well-known journalist within the household name within the Somali community. So without further ado, Abdurrahman Abdihafid Jama, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Sadiq, thank you very much, and everybody else, Mr. Chairman. Inshallah, waxaan ku hadlayaa luqadeena Soomaaliyeed sababo fara badan oo jira awgeed. Waxaan jecelahay inshallah ta'ala inaad dib ka ogaan doontaan ujeedada afkeena hooyo ee sharafta iyo karaamada leh in la xuso ay u mudan tahay meelahan oo kale marka la isugu yimaado. Sidaa awgeed af Soomaali baan ku hadli doonaa inshallah ta'ala. Engineer Yariisow anigu 25 sano ka hor ayaan isku baranay magaalada London ayadoo dadka Soomaalida ay yar yihiin ee galbeedka magaalada London degan markaas. Isbarashadiisina waxay aasaas iyo gogol xaar u noqotay inaan u noqono saaxiibo sokeeya oo aad iyo aad u wada shaqeeya, gaar ahaan 15 sano ugu dambeysay saaxiibo maanan ahayn, waxaanu ahayn walaalo sokeeya oo si gaar isaga warqaba. markii uu halkan yimid injineerku laba ujeedo ayuu halkan yimid. ujeedada koowaad waxay ahayd inuu helo nolol ka fiican tii dalkeena hooyo markaa ka jirtay bilowgii dagaalada sokeeye markay bilowdeen. dabeedna wuxuu doortay inuu yimaado London oo ah ayadu magaalo degan nabad sharaf iyo karaamo aan kulligeen ku haysano. waxyaalaha UK ay unique ku tahay ama dalal kale kaga duwan tahay waxa ka mid ah dimuqraadiyadda, xorriyatul qowlka, equality, law and order iyo human rights. Sidaa awgeed ayuu halkan uga doortay wadamo kala badan oo uu tagi karay. riyadiisa labaadna waxay ahayd inuu ku guuleysto inuu wax barto oo noloshiisa kor u qaado. Soomaalidana waxay tiraahdaa aqoon la'aani waa iftiin la'aan. taasi waxay kaliftay in uu sidoo Mar Sadiq haddaba sheegay master's degree uu ka qaatay jaamacad ku taala magaalada London, halkaas oo ku takhasuskiisu ahaa housing management officer uu ku noqday degmada Ealing oo kaga hawlgalay shaqadiisii iyo waxbarashadiisii. Engineer Yariisow markii uu waxbarashadiisii ka qalin jabiyay isla mar ahaantiiba waxa uu ka hawlgalay degmada Ealing. halkaas ayuu wuxuu ku caawiyay dadweyne Soomaaliyeed oo dadweyne fara badan oo Soomaalidu ay ka mid tahay oo markaas dhibaato ay ka haysatay xagga guriyeenta, luqadda, fahamka iyo deganaansida loo dego dalkan iyo horumarka kala duwan ee ka socda iyo waliba luqadda oo dhibaato ku ahayd. ubadkii education-kii si fiican aan u fahmaynin ama waalidkii mararka qaar kood aan fahmaynin. waxa kale uu ku guuleystay oo si sharaf leh ugu guuleystay asagoo dadaal fara badan u soo maray in dawladda hoose ee degmada Ealing iyo shacabka Soomaaliyeed ay isfahmaan iskuna soo dhawaadaan ayna noqdaan shacabka Soomaaliyeed degmada Ealing shacab la ixtiraamo, codeeya, sharaf leh, contribution fiican ka geysta degmada Ealing and cross London. waxyaalaha kale uu ku guuleystay injineerku waxa ka mid ahaa inuu turjumay waxyaalaha sharciyada la halmaana guriyeenta iyo waxbarashada. haddaad iskuulada qaar kood tagtid Ealing ku yaala today waxaad arkaysaan looxooda ama boorka advertisement-ga waxa ku qoran gacmo furan ku soo dhawow. haddaad aragtid ogow 100% iskuuladu ka dambeeyay ama la shaqeeyay looxooda waxaas ayaa ku dhagan, inkastoo iskuulo fara badan oo kalena ay qaateen. waxa uu kale ku guuleystay markii uu turjumay community-gii aasaaska u ahaa dadka xaafadda degan inay sharciyadana ilaaliyaan ayaguna xaqooda ay helaan. kadib waxa uu kale ku dadaalay community-da Soomaalida ee ka shaqeeya degmada Ealing organisationada ah Soomaalidu ay ku tiirsan yihiin inuu u soo helo dhaqaalaha ayagu xaq u leeyihiin si ay ugu adeegaan bulshada Soomaaliyeed waxaan ogtiin dadkiina sida fiican oo socda aad ayay adag tahay in nidaamka wadankan inta fahamtid dhaqaalaha xaqa u leedahay markaas adigu aad heshid waxaa jira dhibaatooyin fara badan oo ku hor yaala haddaadan afka qoonina Allah ku gargaaro weeyaan fursad heli maysid maadaama uu af Soomaaliga ku turjumay sababaha inaan af Soomaaliga ugu hadlay ugu kalifay waxa kamid ah asaga ayaan ku ixtiraaminaa in uu waxa uu bilaabay ee hore socdaan luqadeena hooyana dowladda daafaheeda laga maqlo inta kadib waxa dhacday Engineer Yariisow waxa uu sidoo kale ku guuleystay oo ku dadaalay ilin kaliya kuma ekaanin dowladda qaybaheeda kala duwan ayuu wuxuu la sameeyay engagement ama kulanno kala duwan si uu ummadda Soomaaliyeed wanaagooda iyo horumarkooda uga sheekeeyo haddii ahaan lahayd foreign office oo dad hadda halka nagala joogan David home office iyo wasaaradaha kala duwan ee dowladdan iyo sidoo kale med police kaba ayuu la shaqeeyay mar walbana wuxuu u sheegayay kana dhaadhacsiinaya dadkeena iyo dalkeena inay yihiin dad wanaagsan oo horumar leh aan ahayn dad dhintay baaba'ay rajo aan lahayn iyo dal hoogay oo baay aan ahayn mar walba wanaaga ummadda ayuu ka sheekeynaya waxaan u maleynayaa kulligeen waajib baa naga saaran inaan wanaagaas oo kala hormarino haddana anagu uskaga iska dhaqin cid ka dhaqmayso marna mursan waxay tiri Soomaali u diida ceeb naftiina ka dhowracay وهجاج إنجنير ياريسو أنت مركا وسوس من يهولها كوجول أنت كليه كما كان وحوج بدلكي هويه وحلا قبته ما دام الدلك اللي بعت أي كجرت وحو أبورين لا أروريه لقارة دتك اللي بعت يسون لقول تاكلين يجعل لقول صينية تاسنا وحي كانت لقالي وجبنا واجس الأروريه إنه أساس وها أو هويه الصومالية اللي بعت دتك اللي كجرت مركز لقول تاكلين أيضا لو يجين ديجان يحافظ يقيس يعلن من نبأ لكن قفك الحلقارسين وياي Somali كان وحبيين وياي Somali وأنا وحيالها أقول أكثر أمد الصوماليين يكون كرامة سنتهاي سنة أكثر إنجنير ياريسو وحا ويجلالي أما أو أساسي ميتين كي أما شركي أبد أقول لا الصومالي دياسبورا UK أي قبصدان أو لوجو مقعدري Somali دياسبورا كونفرنس أو كذا عن مقالة لستر لما يكون يتدوبدي qofkii asaasay oo fikirka lahaa ayuu ahaa sidoo kale wuxuu ahaa chairmankii ururkii active ka ahaa ee aad ku shaqeyn jiray ee loogu magac daray ama la oran jiray Somali Concern Group 2004 ilaa 2008 ayuu chairman ka ahaa 2008 markuu shirkaas u dhacay ayaan aniga asagoo meel aan ku shaahayn jirnay isugu nimid wuxuu igu yiri waxba iga dhex guuxayay iga dhageyso waxaan ku yiri waa maxay wuxuu yiri waxaan rabaa inaan halkan ka haajiro oo dalkii hooye aan tago dabadeedna waa dhaka faaray dagaalka iyo qarax iyo dhibaatada dhacaysa maxaad u waaraysaa oo ubadkaaga iyo carruurtaada uga tagaysaa was my thought wuxuu igu yiri arrin aan jecelahay inaad ila dareentaan haddii ilaahay yiraahdo shahban cabay gacanta midigta ayuu i qabtay si uu attention-kayga u helo wuxuuna igu yiri haddii anigu aana bixin oo naftayda iyo maalkayga aanan horinin yaa baxaya oo dalkeenni dhisaya I think fartiin kulligeen nagu wajahan inay tahay si kastaba ha ahaatee Engineer Yariisow go'aanka markuu qaatay kadib waa tagay dalkii hooye ayuu aaday erayada uu igu yiri maalintaas oo idinkaan idinla wadaagayo kama aysan ahayn asaga hal ku dhagiyo sound bites hal ku dhagiyo dadka dhagahooda ay ku raaxaystaan oo maqlaan kama aysan ahayn ficil ahaan ayuu uga turjumay waxa uu ku guuleystay markiiba inuu ku dadaalo inuu dawladii ka qayb qaato oo naftiisii iyo aqoontiisii uu asagu markaa hormariyo si ay ummadda Soomaaliyeed ay horumar u gaadho shaqooyin kala duwan ayuu soo qabtay shaqooyinka kala duwan marka uu soo qabtay tii ugu muhiimsanayd waxay ahayd tii uu hadda hayay hameen 1 o'clock London time ayuu soo wacay wuxuu ugu yiri Cabdixafiidow shaqo ayaa la ii magacaabay ee saxaafadda kala soco waxaan ku yeerinayo qish yar ee CEO ii sheeg shaqadu waa maxay ولا يجديدي وحيجيله ورجع عكارو إيمان دولاي كورهاي وهي الكذب وحلوه مقعابين ونقضي مارك مقالة لندن فعل هذا مارك مقالة مقدشة مارك مقالة مقدشة قال صديق أنا سيا so what do you expect right مقالة مقدشة ومارك نقضه أي الله مقعابي وحوله هي شقده وجج على أو دوني إنه ماركتين نفتي سي مالكي سأقدكم dadaal fara badan ayuu ku bixiyay inay magaaladaas wadooyinkeeda la dhiso waxyaalihii ugu waaweynaa uu qabtay intii yaraa uu joogay waxaan ka mid ahaa saxaafadda ka daawanay waalidiin guryahoodii laga qaatay oo shakhsiyaad individual ay ka qaateen dadkoo dhan maahan inuu guryahoodii u soo celiyo isla mar ahaantaana wadooyinkii uu dhiso iskuuladii uu dhiso xarumihii dadka iyo dalka uu lahaana dib loo soo celiyo haddii dhibaatadii dhacday 24kii bisha oo ahayd in maaragtay si wuxuushnimo loo xasuuqa asaga iyo walaalo kale aysan dhicinina 3 milyan ee ku nool magaalada London iyo barka magaalada Muqdisho ku nool ayuu u adeegi lahaa horumarka uu la jeclaa ayuuna gaarsiin lahaa asagoo dadka Soomaaliyeed ee wanaaga jecel kaalmaysanaya Soomaalidana waxay tiraahdaa gacmahooda jir bay wax ku gooyaan waxaan doonayaa sakan inaan dul istaago shacabka magaalada Muqdisho aan ku dheeraanaynin shacabka magaalada Muqdisho shacab dunida la mid ma jirto waana waxay Soomaalida kala wadaagaan laakiin waa unique to them sababtoo waxay tahay 30 sano dad subax walba waagu bariya la qarxinayo oo qofkii dhintay inta soo xabaashaan oo qadarta Ilaahay ay ku qancaan haddana guriyihii dhisaya dhaawiciina maxay toobis dabiibaya isla markaana faryaamadi iyo fundigii iyo maxaa lahaa looxii iyo musbaarkii iska dawoodo dhisay anigu meel adduunka ay ka jirto ma aqaano fallan aan u sacabino shacabka reer Muqdisho ee sharafta iyo karaamada leh iyo Soomaaliyeed meel kasta oo joogtada thank you and Aadan Mataan wuu soo socdaa I'll just land it trust me 2 seconds inta kadib waxaan ka qaaday Engineer Yariisow oo ku galeenaya waraysi ayaan ka qaaday waxaan weydiiyay 3 bilood ka hor halkan London Loogu Studio TV-ga Universal waa maxay dhibaatada ugu weyn ee dadka Soomaaliyeed hortaagan wax badan weeye buu yiri laakiin 2 iyo 3 hadaan ka siiyo midda koowaad wuxuu yiri waa terrorism oo al-shabaab ay wadaan and I think sadiiqan sheegayba kulligeen collective effort baa loo baahan yahay dalkeena iyo dadkeenaba aan ku badbaadino midda labaadna wuxuu yiri waa tribalism xanuunkii daawadiisa diinteenu ay noo sheegtay oo dadka bukaanka Soomaalida ay diideen ku soo goob waa qabyaalad weeyaan waxaan ugu dambeyntii weydiiyay legacy noocay ayaad ka tagaysaa si jeceshay in lagu xasuusto waxa uu yiri anigu dooni maayo personal legacy in la iga taga ma rabo laakiin waxaan rabaa inaan Muqdisho iyo Soomaaliya uga tago meeshii aan ugu imid meel ka wanaagsan inuu gaarsiiyay in kale idinka halka fadhiya kuwa dalkii jooga iyo inta wanaaga jecel ayaa markhaati ka ah waad mahadsantihiin dalkeena iyo dalkeena hore u socdaan
Thank you, Abdi Hafid, for those remarks and capturing the achievements of the late mayor. He's alive in the UK and the work that he has done here in the United Kingdom as a community leader, and to continue that particular. So on this evening we have 3 themes, which are firstly we look at the life of the late mayor as a community leader here in the UK and his impacts that he made here in this great city and the great country of the United Kingdom and London. And then we're going to look at his impacts as the mayor of Mogadishu in Somalia, as well as the Minister of Information and other roles that he held in Somalia and the impacts that he made over there in Somalia. And then lastly, we will look at how do we continue practically the work that he has started. How do we make sure that we'll continue his legacy? So on that particular theme of the evening, I would like to call the director of Durdurban, as well as the chairman of the Global Somali and UK Somali diaspora, and then Liban Nuh, who has been a close friend of the late mayor, to also touch upon some of the impacts that he has witnessed the late mayor making here in the United Kingdom. So Liban.
It's quite a day that we're here today. It's honor and privilege in the sense that we're here in the City Hall today to remember our brother, the fallen brother, Engineer Yariisow. He was a courageous young leader, an inspiring leader. We all know about that during his time in the Union Council when he was helping the Somalis through the housing issues and the other problems that we face. He was also instrument for many people like myself to be encouraged to go home, to see and try to contribute our home country. I met him in 2014 and 13, and he makes us felt that home is safe, and somewhere we can be encouraged to build up businesses, to redevelop our country, to establish our boundaries and fight for our rights. See, the thing is here is Somalia, we're fighting for the future of our children, and not only of our children, for our grandchildren as well. This is our home. And I remember one day, Mariam Mussol, who you all know, She's asked me, where have you been? And I said, I came back from Mogadishu. And she said, oh, Habariyaro, you know, she felt sad for me. I said, well, I was worried maybe you get killed. And I said, Mogadishu is going to eat a lot of people, a lot of young people, educated people, second generation, before it stands on its feet. So if we become a martyr for that, I mean, there's nothing, no harm done, because we have to pay the price for it. Coming back to Engineer Yariisow, we met in many community conferences, many community organizations in here in London, back in the early 2090s. And the issue was always he was a campaigner, an inspiring leader who campaigned and advocate for Somali rights. Like my brother was saying here earlier, he wrote many of and translated many of the information leaflets that was here, that all of you know and experience for, to translate into Somali language, so it would be easy for Somali people, Somali-speaking people, to understand the information that are required from them. Now, in my time in here, and spending great time dealing with him, Engineer Yariisow, for us, it's quite saddened. I never expect he would be left that young. You know, it's quite sad, really. It makes me feel, for almost even today, to my stomach, I really felt, you know, he's always in front of me, and I'm thinking, you know, how we talk and conversation we had. The last time I met him, we were in the Hotel Hilton in here, and we were talking about Somali Peace Festival, a festival that is to do with stabilizing Somalia and having 3 days of celebrating peace and stability in our home country. So I'm quite saddened about that. So the thing is, maybe tomorrow many of us will be lost here, but the cause is a good cause. His death is not in vain. He died for what he believes. He died for building his country. So this is the thing. This is all something that's waiting for us, all of us. You gotta go when you have to go, but the thing is, he inspired, like I said, many of us to visit back home and be encouraged to go to Mogadishu, where we all know explosions happen monthly or weekly rate. The things that I remember most of it about him, he was close. I mean, for me and him, we became close later years through Abd Umar, who you all know, many of you know. He was a close friend to Abd Umar, and that's how we become to know each other and become friends. And what I feel today is really, first of all, for his family, and I want to give a gratitude to courageous woman, his wife, who allowed her son to go to Mogadishu and to give a speech, despite what happened to her husband. That's a courageous woman. Please give clap hands for her. She's really courageous. Without further ado, I think we all know the contribution that he made. He helped us during the campaign of banning khat, which took 14 years to lobby for that. It didn't come easy. We lobbied many things, and he was also a businessman. Last time he was encouraging me to bring investors into Mogadishu. Him and I, we share a common thing, which was highlighting the landmark of Mogadishu, the museums, Hotel Al Aruba, the statues of Aad Tacsida, all those areas we were trying to safeguard for future generations. Mogadishu is an old city, and we all know that, and it's a treasure city. This used to be called the Pearl of Indian Ocean, and that's what his heart was, to protect those landmarks, and that's what's going to be missed about him. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and Liban. And continuing with that Pacific theme, our next speaker made the journey from all the way to the Netherlands when she heard about that we were doing a commemoration event for our late brother and friend. So, Father Farah, the CEO of Hirdo organization in the Netherlands, and also is in Mogadishu, who worked with the late mayor throughout the last 15 years, and also she has been working with him just recently in Mogadishu about the work that her organization has been doing of reviving the capital city of Mogadishu. So, Father.
Good evening, and assalamu alaikum. Honored guests, fellow Somali in the diaspora, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored as a Somali in the diaspora to have the privilege to speak at this commemoration event of late Abdurrahman Omar Asman, Engineer Yariisow. He was beloved mayor in Mogadishu. He was a hero to my eyes and to many others in Somalia. He sacrificed his life for rebuilding and bringing back the glory of Mogadishu, a beautiful capital of Somalia. He loved his country and his people. As many of you have already described Engineer Yariisow, he was an humble, brave, courteous, gentle, dedicated, and full of integrity. Despite knowing the risk associated with moving back to Somalia and leaving all behind, Engineer Yariisow believed that we as Somalis in the diaspora, as well as the ones in home, if we don't return and to support the rebuilding of our country, no one else would do it. There's something waiting for us as a diaspora, but also people there. We also remember with the gratitude and admiration many of Somali diaspora who like Engineer Yariisow left families, careers, the security to return to Somalia to help in the rebuilding and to create hope and great for Somalis. Some of them, namely Southern Alaya, and many others also sacrificed their lives in the service of our country. May Allah grant it to them Jannatul Firdausa. The first time I met Engineer Yariisow was 3 years ago in Amsterdam. And he was a Minister of Information at that time of Federal Somali government. Among others, Engineer Yariisow came to Amsterdam to clean his name from baseless accusation. He chose a legal pathway to solve this problem when he had a chance to do differently. Observation, his behavior at this encounter, I realized what a person of integrity he was. And what a brave man he was. Thanks to Allah, he won the case. And he cleaned his name. Thanks to Allah that he has done these things. During his life, Engineer Yariisow was convinced about the contribution of Somali diaspora in the rebuilding of Somalia. Before he left the UK, he was an active member of UK Somali diaspora who advocated for peace, stability, and sovereignty of Somalia. He knew the importance of the diaspora engagement to the country. And he initiated some of important activity during his tenure as a mayor of Mogadishu. He invited youth from Europe and Australia to support the tournament because he believed that the sporting activity were good for the community integration and providing the peace for the space for interaction between youth from the diaspora and the local community. Furthermore, he invited key members of Somali diaspora to be part of institutional capacity building of Somalia, especially Mogadishu municipality. And I was one of them. And my friend Shakur Halane was there. We just came back 13th of June. And we have done some training for districts, Hamarweyne, Shingani, Pondere, and Aad Aziz. And if you see those people, how they were observing and need to be build their capacity to do something. And some of them were unfortunately died in this with Engineer Yariisow. Engineer Yariisow believed that the blessing we enjoyed as a Somali diaspora also come with an obligation to give back to our country. Engineer Yariisow, like many other heroes, lost their lives, gave up everything they had, not for gallery, not for even gratitude, but something greater than themselves. We cannot bring them back, or we cannot replace them or ease them the pain of their family and friends who live with their loss. Nevertheless, these heroes died to bring Somalia back on their trail to reconstruction and future glory. So what we can do, what we must do, we must carry on their legacy. We have to honor their memory. We have to care their family. And finally, as a nation, we have to remain worthy of their sacrifices, for committed to the country they loved, and the Somalia they fought for and died for. Thank you very much. May Allah grant him Jannah to the Firdaus again. And please, everybody, forgive him for his sins. And please give him dua for everybody who died there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fatima, for your wisdom, and thank you very much for making the journey from all the way to the Netherlands to come and join us this evening. So really appreciate your intervention and your remarks. And now we will move into looking at the late Mayor's life in Somalia and his impacts in Somalia and the change and the contribution that he made in Somalia. So to open on that particular theme, we will start with Dr. Yusuf Umar, who is a research associate at the University of London, SOAS. Dr. Yusuf.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Adam, for inviting me and everyone, and also your team, Adam. A lot have been mentioned about the engineer Yariisow by Fatima Farah and Abdul Hafiz, so I don't say that much. But I will just mention just a few dot points. Allah ha u naxariisto marka koobaad engineer Yariisow. As a social scientist, I will just talk about the attitudinal initiative that could be in the opposite of the physical support or physical initiative. As an academic, I contacted few people in Somalia, in Mogadishu, including his office. And something all of them mentioned, he was exceptional in the area of relationship, human relationship, and constructive communication and good behavior. That is a great initiative, and that you can't find in many Somali politicians in nowadays, really. I spoke last night with his personal assistant called Yusuf Umar, the same as me, the same name. And he said Engineer Yariisow used to advise and encourage his team in any meeting to answer, the telephone calls or emails, whatever, any kind of communication, for two reasons. One of them, either the person who is contacting are in difficult, so you can help them and support them. That's one reason. The second reason is, maybe they wanted to offer you some good advice and suggestions. So either it's a win-win solution. So he was a great communicator and encourager. The way I met with Engineer Yariisow is very much interesting. I met him when he came to London to visit to my mother-in-law. An elderly woman. They do not hail from the same tribe totally at all. But do you know why? Because they were just neighborhoods and family friends long time ago, before he became a minister or mayor of Mogadishu. So you can imagine a mayor of Mogadishu, as you mayor of London or a mayor of Mogadishu coming to an elderly woman just to visit her and drive a long distance to come and to visit her. It's a very unique quality you can't find in many our life. So that's quite very unique, a life quality. Engineer Yariisow was well known in the area of supporting people with, disability or with special needs and marginalized groups as well. People with special needs have full access to his office. In fact, he developed, the access where they can use their wheelchairs to get access to his office. And he has recently employed 10 people of disabled people, including this woman, confirmed by the government that she was behind his death. So that actually indicated his humanistic approach. He also in the middle to develop a big project to relocate and resettlement project for the displaced people in Mogadishu. Those who came from other regions in Somalia, to offer them employment opportunities, life skills, to make them to become positive citizens and taxpayers. So finally, he was in the process to build 360 houses. So in nutshell, in conclusion, if you read around his work and activities in Mogadishu, it shows he actually transferred knowledge and skills he learned here in UK. Housing, minority rights, accessibilities, special needs. That's what we need really to learn from him. Allah Yariisow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf, for mentioning those initiatives that has been led and created by our beloved late mayor. So thank you very much indeed again. And also the next speaker and continue with the life in Somalia is lawyer Marian Hassan, who also wants to talk about how he personally has touched her life recently and how he has helped her in her work in Somalia. So Marian.
But I wanted to say thank you, first of all, to the Greater London Authority for hosting us here. Of course, the UK Somali diaspora population, we are a substantial number. My parents were the first Somalis to move to the London borough of Hounslow, and so Yariisow obviously wasn't far off in Ealing. And so when I moved to Somalia in late 2015, he recognized me straight away and he said, "You have your dad's nose." And so everyone who knows my dad is he's very tall. So Yariisow knew who I was and welcomed me. And I think even until the day he died, he probably didn't even know my tribe because he just didn't care about Qabil. And I'm sure all of you know that as well. He saw me as a young woman who left a job as a lawyer in the diaspora to come back. So currently I work in the Office of the President. I am the chief negotiator to the WTO. I'm a lawyer, of course, by training, and I deal with things that you wouldn't think he was interested in. But in my last meeting with him a few days before he passed away, we were working on WTO accession and how, by us joining the global market, we would be able to have sort of diversified exports, because Somalia is obviously a very import-heavy country, right? So it's a testament to just how varied he was, because I think it was anything that was sort of going to contribute to Somalia, Yariisow was interested in. Even if it wasn't within his mandate or within the constituency he was serving, he was still very much on board. So when I saw him at Aun Eng Yariisow, he was glowing. And I had to sit there for about 40 minutes because we had a room full of people who were trying to get their houses back. And so he was literally going through all these papers with people. And this is stuff that, a lot of his staff could have been doing, but he wanted to be hands-on because he was very, very, very passionate about trying to get people their properties back, their land back, and he didn't care about what tribe they were again. He just wanted to be hands-on and to ensure, and I'm sure many of you saw videos of him giving keys back to very emotional people. And so that was sort of my last memory of him, and that's how I'd like to remember him, as someone who consistently went the extra mile. He sat there, he didn't have lunch. He refused to have lunch until he saw every single person in our office, and that was my last memory of him. So one thing that he did, I think, to stand up was he was an ally for women. And people may look at me and think, okay, well, you're an educated woman, you probably had the red carpet rolled out to you moving into Somalia, but of course it comes with a lot of harassment, right? And so the thing about Mayor Yariisow was he fought for me for me, a very vulnerable time. I was pregnant and I was sick, and it was extremely difficult for me to even go on maternity leave. He was the Minister of Information at the time. And when I saw him last year, when I came back from maternity leave at the Somali Partnership Forum in Brussels, I asked him, why did you help me? Because, he was also putting himself in trouble by helping me, and he said that I have daughters, and any injustice to them is an injustice, and any injustice to you is an injustice to my daughters, and whilst I can do something, I'm going to do something. So I think we keep talking about diaspora and Somalis as if it's sort of, very binary, right? But I think for the men in particular, you need to take away that he was an ally for women, he was a feminist, he supported women's rights, and anytime you see an injustice, you need to speak out, and that's, I think, the best way to honor his memory as well. To give back, because oftentimes I don't think we give enough focus to some of the things that young women have to go through working in very volatile environments such as Somalia. So I think looking at how he brings everybody together, we are a testament here to his unifying power. Even in his passing, we're all here trying to honor his memory and to pay it forward by helping others and to bring forward his message. But I think it's really important to look at something that I found out recently, which is, for me, he was completely altruistic, right? Which is, it's kind of hard to find people who are 100% self-serving and don't have an element of, self-entitlement, or, he didn't do any of the work that he was doing with trying to sort of get some return on him. But there's something really interesting that I heard on, I think it was a TED Talk or something the other day, and it was about the vulnerability of joy, right? And so in the vulnerability of joy, first of all, joy is the most vulnerable emotion that people feel. And the reason why it's the most vulnerable is that people don't want to experience joy because they're worried that it'll be taken from them. And the way you counter that is by having constant gratitude. And Mayor Yariisow had constant gratitude. So every time you'd see him, he'd say, Alhamdulillah, Inshallah, MashaAllah. You know, he never thought, okay, this is going to be snatched from me at any moment. He did it being completely grateful to God, to Somali people, to Muslims all over the world, to his community that he served, of course, in Ealing. He did it, I think, from a place of complete selflessness, and that showed, I think, you know, the testament of who he was as a man, because that is, in psychology speak, the minority. The majority of everybody else is worried, don't want to take any risks, you know, worried that it will be taken from them, and they kind of live in this perpetual state of fear. How can we sort of pay it forward? And I think if we can just wrap up some of the things I highlighted, is to, again, speak up for the voiceless, i.e. women, you know, those who have minority rights in Somalia, etc., you know, not care about qabil and worry about who's what, and just thinking about how can I help this person because I want to help this person. Not complaining, saying Alhamdulillah, being grateful, and more than anything, I think, honoring his family by us doing service, whatever that is, whether it's in the UK or in Somalia or anything like that. And for me, I'm not going to give up. And I think that, you know, seeing him in those last days and him reassuring me and talking to me and supporting me, that's what I'm going to carry forward. And inshallah, I hope Allah protects me and protects all of my colleagues in Hamar who are doing the work, necessary work, to carry it forward, and we shall try to honor his memory in the best way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian, for that personal remarks and a emotional contribution to our late mayor. Thank you very much indeed. And now we're going to look at how do we, as collective, in Somalia as well as in the diaspora, how do we continue his legacy? How do we continue the work that he has started? And on this particular theme, we will start with Fatma Ahmed, who is the Middle East and Africa Director for Albany Associate, and Albany, I know, has been working with the late mayor for a long period of time, and she wants to reflect on the work that they have been doing with him, and also looking at how do we continue his great work that he has started. So Fatima.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I knew the late Mayor Engineer Yariisow, Eng Yariisow, like many of the diasporas when I went back to Somalia to work with Albany Associates. And I have to say that I was humbled to have the opportunity to work with him, a man who is committed, like many of the words that we've said, to making a change for all. We first worked together when he was the Minister of Information, where he was committed to protecting the rights of journalists and human rights defenders. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to work with him in IGAD in preventing violent extremism and fighting al-Shabaab in Somalia. And like many have said, he was instrumental to creating change. His insights, his wisdom, and his ideas to fighting al-Shabaab gave all of us inspiration and ideas. To me, like many others, he was a superhero, an inspiration, and a role model. Today, I stand committed to continue the work that he's been doing in Somalia and to continue his legacy. The team that I work with in Somalia want to work to honor his legacy by continuing working with young people and contributing to resilience in our country. I will now read a few words from my director, Simon Hazelock, who worked with Engineer Yariisow for 10 years. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, so I'm going to read a few words from him. We live in times where the competition for attention has made exaggeration and hyperbole the norm. When we describe friends and colleagues, and even those we don't really know, superlatives flow off the tongue to the extent that they become cliched, and as such their impact is diminished. Phrases like great person, wonderful human being, brave and committed public servant, a dedicated man, are easy rhetorics on occasions like this. They are expected, repeated, and often unjustified. But in Yariisow's case, these are no hyperbole. All these phrases and more don't do proper justice to the man I knew as both a colleague and a friend. He was the real deal, trusted and honest to a fault. He was indeed a great man. He was a wonderful friend and person. He was genuinely brave and committed to public service, and he was a dedicated family man. I first met him in the days when Mogadishu was still mostly occupied by Al-Shabaab, and where he calmly and mischievously warned me to catch out for the stray bullets in the Ministry of Information's car park. I last saw him when he came to our office in London, full of pride, having been to the graduation of his daughter. In my 10 years working in and on Somalia, Engineer Yariisow was one of those people who kept me optimistic as to its future. I knew him as a colleague when we worked as the director of Radio Barkanan, and then as a consultant and advisor to the federal government of Somalia. And I knew him as a government official and politician and mayor. In each of these roles, he showed all the qualities and reinforced my optimism. If he was prepared to selflessly dedicate his life to the service of his country, there must be more like him. With people like this, the prospect for the country he loved, where good and lasting peace and stability are achievable. This must be his legacy. Yariisow was snatched away by a senseless and barbaric act carried out by an anachronistic organization that offers nothing other than pain and suffering to all of Somalia. Yariisow will be remembered by everyone as the complete reverse of this. He represented the hopes and strength of all Somalis. Our best tribute to him will be to make sure that hope does not and cannot fade, but continue to flourish in his memory. May Allah grant him the highest Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen.
Thank you, and Fatima, and thank you also and making commitment. That's Albany to continue his legacy by working with entities that you work, organization and charities that you've been working with in Somalia, and we hope to see continuation of that work to continue the work and the legacy of our late mayor. And now, one of the things that Engineer Yariisow was very passionate about was defeating extremist ideology and defeating Al-Shabaab for Somalia to reach the place it deserves on the world rank. And he has done that in numerous of ways. And now, in just to continue that legacy, I would like to call Dr. Hassan Chama to talk about how do we as Somalis continue that legacy of countering the toxic ideology of extremists, especially the one is back home in Somalia, Al-Shabaab. So, Dr. Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When we talk about ideology, one must bear in mind the definition of the ideology itself. Ideology is what drives a human being into action, whatever the reasons are. When it comes to extremism ideology, it's very, very dangerous. To say that, because it's a powerful message which attracts a lot of people. Particularly, there are no specific people. When it comes radicalism or when it comes extremism ideologies, it attracts even the educated, the less educated, the young people, the unemployed, and of course the social injustice. Those who believe that have no place in the society, those who have got difficulties in life, will absolutely search for a hope by acting terrorism. Now, terrorism itself, it's an ideology that provides an initial range of legitimate. And that legitimate must be targets and means by which terrorists seek to justify attacks by both themselves, because they explode themselves as a suicide bombers, believing that they will be rewarded the highest prize in Jannah, which completely, as I and you believe, is baseless. There's no religion on earth that accommodates violence, killing innocent people. Absolutely not. And those who call for terrorism, they have their own agendas. They have no idea about what the Islam or the religion they believe is about. I do not like to link or mention the connotation that gives terrorism to Islam. No. Every religion has a part of extremism. Now, when they recruit, as I said earlier, they always mention and seek for those who are vulnerable. And as you and I are aware, Somalia has never had an effective central government since the unneeded bloody civil war took place. And as we are aware, that unneeded bloody civil war has brought divisions among the Somali communities. The UN report in 2013 has warned about the harsh veracity that the youth in Horn of Africa are currently facing. They mentioned that half of the Somali population currently on the report was in 2013. They said half of the Somali population is aged under 18. Now, looking at that statistics, young person who has no hope and living in a country that has been decimated by a civil war, tribalism, division among clans and tribes. What they have all ever known is conflict, tribalism, killings, unemployment, poverty, loss, displacement, and rarely have any expectations for a better future. Now, when Al-Shabaab presents a better hope, false messages based on a distorted ideology, and also explaining and giving a distorted version of Quran, plus £300, $400 a month with a proper late advanced mobile phones. Now, plus they also inform the young people in the mosques that they will be allowed, once they die, they will straightforwardly go to Jannah. And in paradise, they're allowed to sponsor 20 people, which is completely baseless. Now, a young man who has never had a life, who has never had absolutely a better future, and has no expectations, when he is given such an offer, there's no way to turn back. He just goes and simply picks up. Now, that ideology is a toxic. And the way to counter it, as a peace and security consultant, I would simply recommend that we, all of us, have got responsibilities. Yeah. We have a responsibility when it comes to fighting or countering against that extremist ideology. Now, to counter extremist ideology, effective policy and inclusive counter-narrative campaigns is really what I would propose. And that campaigns which encompass a wide range of communication activities like public diplomacy, strategic communications by the governments, although you and I are aware that the current Somali government is not in that position when it comes to fighting security. Because when you want to fight security issues, you have to have an element that can support you. You must have a proper policy and a strategy that could interpret the needs in the ground. So you and I, we need to follow the footsteps of late fallen Mayor Osman. May Allah grant him peace. He was a role model. To be honest, I never had a 1 minute idea of going back to the country and help people there. But to be honest, when I look at what Engineer Yariisow has done when he was alive, it's really, really the only elements that encourages me to go back to the house where we belong and help out the government and its people. Now, the four mentioned narrative campaigns that I would suggest to be employed is because it raises awareness in communities and foster a key relationship between governments and communities. That counter-narrative campaign, it also discredits the ideologies and actions of violent extremism. And finally, offer alternative narrative focusing on positive engagement and to directly counter violent extremism messages. Now, extremist ideology, as I earlier said, is a toxic. And we are aware of the methodologies that Al-Shabaab usually employs. Threatening is one of the major part that they do. The second, bribe. Third, giving a guarantee of security, which is that we guarantee that nobody will be able to touch you. So being in Mogadishu and knowing everything, what's happening, when you are offered that, you absolutely no other option than just helping them out. But I would like to conclude that extremist ideology is a very dangerous, and it will take many innocent lives. So we need to fight back. If we are parents, academics, intellectuals, religious leaders, moms, and youths. And thank you very much again for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan, and thank you emphasizing how Al-Shabaab and others, whether they are in Somalia or here, they are a threat to our lives, they are a threat to our religion, they are a threat to our existence as humans. And they wanted to force us into their twisted ideology. And we cannot accept that. And that was the legacy of late Engineer Yariisow, who committed his life regardless of the difficulties, regardless of the challenges. I cannot even remember the amount of times that we had a conversation here in London and in Mogadishu and wherever that we found each other. And one thing that he would mention is, what more are you doing to counter extremism? What more can I do? Have you done it? He would go even as detailed as, have you been or have you done a Facebook post to create the awareness of the Somali people about how extremism are destroying our lives? And there won't be no Somalia if we don't take the fight to these guys. And also, that as Dr. Hassan said, our government might not be in a position to take the fights to Al-Shabaab, wherever they might be. But also there is a responsibility on us. We have to be able to do our part, whatever that might mean. Even if it means, as Engineer Yariisow said, a Facebook post or a Twitter post to create a wider understanding of how these guys are alien to our existence, they're alien to our religion. Every day they are killing our beloved individuals, and they're killing the best of our leaders, as you know, the best of our leaders. And they know because they're a threat to them. They know that these individuals will not tolerate their nonsense. And we have to continue that particular and journey. So thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, again for emphasizing our moral obligation as a society, wherever we might be, to counter the extremist ideology. And also, there are some Somalis, for example, who say, "Oh, actually, I don't want to be on the TV talking about Al-Shabaab, because if they find me in Somalia, then they will kill me." Do you know? Even whether you talk about them or not, if they find you, they will kill you either way. So there's no point. They already find you an infidel by just you being you. That's how they see you. So if you have this attitude that I will not put myself forward for countering this toxic ideology because you are frightened of the repercussion that might come from that, the repercussion is the same, whether you talk about them or not. And on that note, I would like to invite Muhammad Abdurrahman Umar Osman, the son of the late father, Dr. Abdurrahman.
Thank you. Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, first of all, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very honored and delighted to be standing here amongst you all. London was my father's second home. Some would say maybe his first, some would say maybe his second, but we can argue and we can dispute this in two forms. If we look at the common beliefs and the shared values that we have between London and Mogadishu, they both face similar challenges. And we look at in terms of the challenges, I would like to start off with the first point. The first challenge that both cities face is the idea of youth and radicalization. I mean, we have a very, as we mentioned earlier with previous speeches, there's the idea of extremist narrative running around within Mogadishu and running around here within London. My father was a champion in fighting this extremist radicalization of youth. He held many conferences within Mogadishu. He spoke with many people within the UK community on how we can fight this narrative and how we can support a betterment within the Somali community, both here in the UK and within Mogadishu. So within this, I would like to change my first point, and not only saying that London was my father's second home, but instead both London and Mogadishu was both my father's first home. Yes, so indeed we can change this narrative. Moving on from this, I would like to talk about a few initiatives that my father started in supporting the Somali community, not only in Mogadishu, but also here within London itself. One of those is the housing of internally displaced people. I mean, London as a city is overpopulated, and we have a housing crisis. Similarly, you can argue the same point within Mogadishu itself. So my father was at the forefront in fighting or supporting people which were internally displaced, not only in Mogadishu but also here within London, whether it was translating a very simple housing document, whether it was helping people book appointments with their local communities. So you have to really understand this, that not only was he supporting people in Mogadishu, but also supporting people here within the London community itself. So himself, he would be honoured to have this event being hosted. On his last visit here to London, he tried to visit the Mayor's office, but due to his very limited schedule and our graduation ceremonies, he was unable to visit the Mayor himself. So in knowing that the Mayor and City Hall is hosting this event here, I'm sure this would be one of the best tributes that we could ever ask for. So we're very grateful for City Hall and administration for hosting this event, first of all. Another point I would like to touch upon is my father was a great supporter of women and empowering women within the community. If you look at all the administrations within Banadir, the administration that my father was running had the highest employment rate of women within the threshold. So if you examine, and this is not only a problem felt within Mogadishu, but also an issue felt here within London itself. So you can see the way my father was thinking. I mean, he had experience of more than 20 years here within the UK community and understanding the problems here within the UK and the idea of progressive politics. So he was transpiring all that he learnt within here in London and putting that across within Somalia itself. Moving on. Another point that my father helped establish was the idea of technology. I mean, now we're in the 21st century, and we have to understand that if we are not using technology, and if we're not updating ourselves within technology, we won't go any further. Under my father's administration, I mean, Apple had opened their first store within Mogadishu. So it showed you the idea that Mogadishu itself was moving. My father really changed that narrative and idea. I mean, people were thinking Mogadishu, oh, this is a place where it's pirates, place of warlords, there's no hope. But my father changed the ideology. He put a more progressive idea of 21st century politics. So the idea of having tech firms opening shops within Mogadishu, the idea of opening and doing different conferences and initiatives that were supporting technology, not only within the community but with youth himself, showed the idea that he was putting Somalia forward and not backwards. A lot of people, they say, we want to bring Somalia how it used to be. My father never thought like that. He would think, how can I change Mogadishu to become in the future, not in the past? So there's a difference between the two. Moving on, my father was also a great supporter of education. I mean, he helped open many schools within many districts in very rural areas to help educate the refugees. On my last visit recently to Mogadishu, I had noticed a 10-year-old boy. His mother unfortunately was killed by the police force in an accident, and he was suffering from autism. The community said that this boy in a place like Mogadishu won't get any support, won't get any education. My father brought him in, said to him that you are like my son, took him to a school and made sure that he was educated and had a home. I mean, most people said that this boy has no future. I mean, he's suffering from autism, his mother is not around anymore. More or less they said that there is no one to support him. But my father brought him in and made sure he had that future available for him. So there was no difference between anybody, wherever your tribe was, whoever your father was, whoever your mother was, whoever you are. My father would always bring you in and give whatever support he could do. So for this we will honor him and we are very grateful in that. Moving on. A lot of you came to me about the past few days and week or so and informed me and of your condolences to me and my family. I would like to extend that condolence because it's not fair for me and myself just to accept all these condolences, because it wasn't only a loss for ourselves as a family, but it was a loss for every single person sitting here and watching this on live or watching this at home, and every Somali community. I mean, it's not our loss, it's not my loss, but it's a loss for all of us. So I would like to extend this condolence to everyone around. I would like to share a brief story with you all about on one of our latest visits when we spoke to our father. He was always asked that given the current climate in Mogadishu, given the situation and disability there, why is it that you're not sitting behind your desk and speaking to people there and just tackling the issues behind the scenes? He always said that since the day he was born, his death was always written, and the time of his death was always there, and nobody could take that away from him. So he will not spend that time sitting behind the desk, or just signing papers, or just doing simple paperwork, but instead he will go to all the internally displaced people. He will go to all the rural areas. He will go to where the conflict is, just to show the people that the government and the administration is there to support him and to be there with him, and nobody could take that from him. I mean, my father had a vision of an idea of a vibrant metropolitan society, championed by progressive politics, the idea of one man, one vote, the idea that every single person has rights, whether it's journalists, whether it's teachers, whether it's politicians, wherever you are, you have rights. So the idea of that 21st century progressive politics where Somalia was going forward and not backward. In doing so, I would like to end by, since I believe I'm one of the last speakers, just by shedding a note of thanks to various members of the communities. First of all, I will start with the City Hall administration and the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, for hosting this event. My father had been very honoured to have this event being held over here. Secondly, I would like to thank the organisers for organising this event here. First of all, Adam Matan, Abdul Jami, for bringing this initiative together and having everybody around so we can celebrate, not only mourn, but celebrate the life and legacy of my father. In addition to this, I would also like to shed some appreciation back home in Somalia, starting with the President and the Prime Minister, for preserving the legacy of my father. I mean, just recently we had the renewal of one of the oldest stadiums in Mogadishu named after my father, in the Yariisow Stadium. So this sort of tribute, or this sort of naming, will help to preserve the legacy of my father and allow us to remember of him, of who he was and the vision that he had. And every time we would walk past the stadium or we see the stadium, we will think, we will stop, we remember that my father had this dream of the future of Somalia. And are we there yet? And what can we do to get there? In addition to this, I would like to thank all the ministers back home in Somalia for all their support that they're doing since the funeral and within the burial. I mean, we are, for us in this situation like this, we are sometimes not as stable as we hope to be. So the idea of you have the support and the framework and the mechanism put in place there for you, we are very grateful for this indeed. And lastly, before lastly, I would like to thank my family and everyone who is here with us and supporting everything that we are doing and preserving what my father believed in and everything that we like to say. In addition to this, there's only one last thank I would like to give across, and this would be to my father's not only best friend but brother, and this is Mr. Abdul Qadir Haji Dar. Since my father's return to Mogadishu, there was nobody else that he felt and he could rely on in person that could be always there with him. And ever since the incident and the tragic incident happened in Mogadishu, he was the first one there on contact to take him there to Doha, to give all the support that we needed to come back to Mogadishu, and we are very grateful for this indeed. And once again, thank you all for coming here today, and we're very grateful. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Adero. And now I would like us to conclude this event. But before I call next speaker, I would like to thank each and every one of you for making the time to come here and to share this important moment with the family and also with the rest of the Somali people. And I would like to thank the Somali TVs who are all here this evening. So thank you very much for coming. And I would like to also thank Sadiq Khan and Debbie for joining us this evening to support and commemorate the Engineer Yariisow, our late mayor. So thank you very much indeed for each and every one of you, and also thank you very much to the family who came here, who Mohammed and Abdi has made the journey from Mogadishu to join and to be with us on this particular event. So thank you very much indeed, and we appreciate your presence. And also on the last note, one of the remarkable things about our last mayor, Engineer Yariisow, he was here a few months ago. And he said to me, I wanted to talk to City Hall here, GLA. I wanted to talk to City Hall about the rise in life crime of young Somalis in London, the death of young Somalis dying on the issues of life crime here in London. Look at this man. He's the mayor of Mogadishu, and he's talking about young Somalis dying in London who had all the privileges to make success out of their lives here in the United Kingdom. And he was here. He just met the lady that was here, sitting here, Debbie, the guy that she replaced, Matthew. He went to him upstairs and he talked to him about young Somalis and the large number of them dying on the issues of knife crime. So look at this transnational responsibility of our late mayor. Regardless of where he was always connected to his community, wherever they might be. And also for us as an organization, ATM, he was actually, there is no better way of putting it, but he was also our father. Supported us, our mentor. We will call him on a regular basis about, this is the challenge of what to do. And also, same in Mogadishu. Supported us, help us to access a more security for our premises in Somalia. So he was also probably I don't know if there is anybody who will be able to replace it for us. He was an incredible individual, and may Allah grant him the highest rank of Jannah. And on that note, let me invite Bazi Basuri, who is a peace activist, who also has been doing incredible work of reconciling Somalis through an artistic means and also creative YouTube channels of bringing Somalis together to talk about some of those subjects that has been difficult. So, Bazi Basuri.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And may Allah make our gathering, inshallah ta'ala, fruitful and well, inshallah. And I'm really grateful to be here. And my name is Bazi Basuri. I work for the charity called Helbi Team that helps the orphans. And one of the things that I want to tell is Engineer Yariisow's help in creating free education for kids helped a lot of orphans that had no free education. And helping the orphans is the highest ranking deed that one can do. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ana wa kafil al-yatimi kahatain." And those who help the orphans and I like these two fingers. So that means, and for Engineer Yariisow's help, he is probably destined to the best postcode in Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah ta'ala. So for that reason, we can say that Engineer Yariisow's life was a well-lived life, and we ask Allah to accept all his deeds and to forgive his sins, inshallah ta'ala. Waxaan Ilaahay ka baryaynaa, inshallah, reerku ka dhintay inuu yani sabar iimaan Ilaahay ka siiyo, asagana jannada Ilaahay ka waraabiyo, khabrigiisana waasic Ilaahay uga dhigo, khabrigiisana rawda min raadil janna Ilaahay uga dhigo, anagana Ilaahay jannada hanagu kulmiye macal Engineer Yariisow, inshallah ta'ala. Anaga sidayna sida ogtihiin Muqdisho waxay soo martay waxaa la yiraahdaa saacad ugu mugdida badan habeenkii waa tan yani fajarka intuu dhalan macna Muqdisho saacadaas ayay hadda martay yani Engineer Yariisow dhimashadiisa waxa waa saacadii mugdiga qoraxdii waqtigii soo bixaysa insha Allah ta'ala yan la raja dhigin insha Allah Muqdisho intaan waa ka baxaysa aan isgarab qawano waxaa la yiraahdaa hadaan indhaha iska arki karin bal uun isgarab socda marka Soomaaliya isgarab socda insha Allah ta'ala jazakumullahu khayr inshallah ta'ala. Marka waxaan Ilaahay ka baryaynaa reerkiisa inuu samir Ilaahay ka siiyo yani Engineer Yariisow xiriirkeena intaa kuma eka marka anaga laga rabaa inaan inshallah ta'ala we don't have to say we feel for you, we have to say we feel with you. That leads to an action inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan inshallah ta'ala.